There she goes. Nashville, Tennessee.
Got 5 people watching. Shout out.
Shout out to the folks.
I'm gonna turn her up a little bit.
Sponsored by
Turn
the
her down
Commission
some.
on Presidential
Do your
Debates.
thing.
It is conducted under health and safety protocols designed by the Commission's health security advisor. The audience here in the hall has promised to remain silent. No cheers, boos, or other interruptions, except right now, as we welcome to the stage former Vice President Joe Biden and President Donald J. Trump. And I do want to say a very good evening to both of you. This debate will cover 6 major topics. At the beginning of each section, each candidate will have 2 minutes uninterrupted to answer my first question. The Debate Commission will then turn on their microphone only when it is their turn to answer, and the Commission will turn it off exactly when the 2 minutes have expired. After that, both microphones will remain on, but on behalf of the voters, I'm going to ask you to please speak one at a time. The goal is for you to hear each other and for the American people to hear
What do y'all
every
think about the
word
mic mute
of what you
situation?
both have to say. And so with that, if you're ready, let's start. And we will begin with the fight against the coronavirus. President Trump, the first question is for you. The country is heading into a dangerous new phase. More than 40,000 Americans are in the hospital tonight with COVID, including record numbers here in Tennessee. And since the two of you last shared a stage, 16,000 Americans have died from COVID. So please be specific. How would you lead the country during this next stage of the coronavirus crisis? 2 minutes, uninterrupted.
So, as you know, 2.2 million people modeled out were expected to die. We closed up the greatest economy in the world in order to fight this horrible disease that came from China. It's a worldwide pandemic. It's all over the world. You see the spikes in Europe and many other places right now. If you notice, the mortality rate is down 85%. The excess mortality rate is way down and much lower than almost any other country. And we're fighting it, and we're fighting it hard. There is a spike. There was a spike in Florida, and it's now gone. There was a very big spike in Texas. It's now gone. There was a very big spike in Arizona. It's now gone. And there are some spikes and surges in other places. They will soon be gone. We have a vaccine that's coming. It's ready. It's going to be announced within weeks, and it's going to be delivered. We have Operation Warp Speed, which is the military is going to distribute the vaccine. I can tell you from personal experience that I was in the hospital. I had it, and I got better. And I will tell you that I had something that they gave me, a therapeutic, I guess they would call it. Some people could say it was a cure. But I was in for a short period of time, and I got better very fast, or I wouldn't be here tonight. And now they say I'm immune. Whether it's 4 months or a lifetime, nobody's been able to say that, but I'm immune. More and more people are getting better. We have a problem that's a worldwide problem. This is a worldwide problem. But I've been congratulated by the heads of many countries on what we've been able to do. If you take a look at what we've done in terms of goggles and
That hand gesture bothers me every time.
He's lying already, Eric. Are we clear on that?
Yes, I'll agree to that.
Okay.
all over the world, thousands and thousands a month, distributing them all over the world. It will go away, and as I say, we're rounding the turn, we're rounding the corner. It's going away.
Okay, former Vice President Biden, to you, how would you lead the country out of this crisis?
Stuck to his
You have
time.
2 minutes uninterrupted.
220,000 Americans dead. If you hear nothing else I say tonight, hear this. Anyone who's responsible for not taking control, in fact, not saying I take no responsibility initially, anyone who's responsible for that many deaths should not remain as President of the United States of America. We're in a situation where there are 1,000 deaths a day now, 1,000 deaths a day, and there are over 70,000 new cases per day. Compared to What's going on in Europe, as the New England Medical Journal said, they're starting from a very low rate. We're starting from a very high rate. The expectation is we'll have another 200,000 Americans dead between now and the end of the year. If we just wore these masks, the president's own advisors have told him, we could save 100,000 lives.
Blaming Trump.
And we're in a circumstance where the president thus far and still has no plan, no comprehensive plan. What I would do is make sure we have everyone encouraged to wear a mask all the time. I would make sure we move in the direction of rapid testing, investing in rapid testing. I would make sure that we set up national standards as to how to open up schools and open up businesses so they can be safe and give them the wherewithal, the financial resources to be able to do that. We're in a situation now where the New England Medical Journal, one of the most serious journals in the whole world, said for the first time ever that the way this president has responded to this crisis has been absolutely tragic. And so, folks, I will take care of this. I will end this. I will make sure we have a plan.
President Trump, I'd like to follow up with you and your comments. You talked about taking a therapeutic. I assume you're referencing Regeneron. You also said a vaccine will be coming within weeks.
Yes.
Is that a guarantee?
No, it's not a guarantee, but it will be by the end of the year. But I think it has a good chance. There are two companies, I think, within a matter of weeks, and it will be distributed very quickly.
Can you tell us which companies?
Johnson & Johnson is doing very well. Moderna is doing very well. Pfizer is doing very well. And we have numerous others. Then we also have others that we're working on very closely with other countries, in particular Europe.
Let me follow up with you, and because this is new information, you have said a vaccine is coming soon, within weeks now. Your own officials say it could take well into 2021 at the earliest for enough Americans to get vaccinated. And even then, they say the country will be wearing masks and distancing into 2022. Is your timeline realistic?
No, I think my timeline is going to be more accurate. I don't know that they're counting on the military the way I do, but we have our generals lined up, one in particular that's the head of logistics. And this is a very easy distribution for him. He's ready to go as soon as we have the vaccine. And we expect to have 100 million vials. As soon as we have the vaccine, he's ready to go.
Vice President Biden, your reaction, and just 40% of Americans say they would definitely agree to take a coronavirus vaccine if it was approved by the government. What steps would you take to give Americans confidence in a vaccine if it were approved?
Make sure it's totally transparent.
Not more civil than
Have
we
the
did
science
the first
world
one.
see it. Know
because they know
look
their
at
mic
it,
gonna get turned
go through
off.
all the processes. And by the way, this is the same fellow who told you this is going to end by Easter last time. This is the same fellow who told you that, don't worry, we're going to end this by the summer.
And
we're
Trump
about
has
to go
not
into a
yet.
dark
And
winter. A dark
Trump has
winter.
not yet.
And he has no clear plan, and there's no prospect that there's going to be a vaccine available for the majority of the American people before the middle of next year.
President Trump, your reaction, he says you have no plan.
I don't think we're going to have a dark winter at all. We're opening up our country.
wife? Hey,
We've
baby, I
learned
see
and
you.
studied and understand the disease, which we didn't at the beginning. When I closed and banned China from coming in heavily infected, and then ultimately Europe. But China was in January. Months later, he was saying I was xenophobic. I did it too soon. Now he's saying, oh, I should have, moved quicker. But he didn't move quicker. He was months behind me, many months behind me.
But Biden
And
isn't in
frankly,
office.
he ran the H1N1 swine
they're
flu,
talking about
and it was a total disaster, far less lethal, but it was a total disaster. Had that had
114
this
people-
kind of
14
numbers,
people died?
700,000 people would be
I don't
dead
know.
right now.
Tell me.
But it was a far less lethal disease. Look, his own person who ran that for him, who, as you know, was his chief of staff, said it was catastrophic, it was horrible, we didn't know what we were doing. Now he comes up and he tells us how to do this. Also, everything that he said about the way every single move that he said we should make, that's what we've done. We've done all of it. But he was way behind us.
Vice President Biden, your response.
My response is he is xenophobic, but not because he shut down access from China. And he did it late after 40 countries had already done that. In
there
addition
he
to
goes,
that,
rebel
what he
jab
did, he
again.
made sure that we
Yeah,
had
I told
44
you.
people that were in there in China trying to get to Wuhan to determine what exactly the source was. What did the president say in January? He said, no, he said, he's being transparent. The president of China is being transparent. We owe him a debt of gratitude. We have to thank him. And then what happened was we started talking about using the Defense Act to make sure we go out and get whatever is needed out there to protect people. And again, I go back to this. He had
So it was
nothing.
12,500
deaths.
deaths.
Then he gets out of the
And
hospital.
60 million,
and he
60.8
talks
million
about,
cases of
this is
H1N1 in
don't worry,
2009
it's
to
all going to
2010.
be over soon. Come
Okay,
on.
so that's
There's
That's
not
from the
another
CDC.
serious scientist in the world who thinks it's going to be over
Minute
soon.
number.
President Trump, your reaction?
By
Over
comparison.
soon. I say we're
By
learning to
comparison.
live with it. We
But
have no choice. We
this
can't
virus,
lock
nobody know what it
ourselves up in
was.
a basement like Joe does. He has the
Oh,
ability to
oh,
lock
there we go.
himself up. I don't know. He's obviously made a lot of money someplace, but he has this thing about living in a basement. People can't do that. By the way, I, as the president, couldn't do that. I'd love to put myself in the basement
What
or
is
in a
wrong
beautiful
with him?
room in the White House and go away for a year and a half until it disappears. I can't do that. And Kirsten, every meeting I had, and I'd meet a lot of families, including
called her
Gold Star
Kirsten, not
families
Kristen.
and military
Yeah,
families.
exactly.
Every meeting I had, and I had to meet them. I had to. It would be horrible to have canceled everything. I said, this is dangerous, and you catch it. And I caught it. I learned a lot. Great doctors, great hospitals, and now I recovered. 99.9 of young.
Hey, right now we have 7 people watching on YouTube. That's a record for us. If you're watching this on YouTube, share this. I appreciate you guys. Like, subscribe. Your name will pop up on the screen.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you guys so much. Let's get back to it.
Can pass it. Vice President Biden, I want to talk broadly about strategy, though. You have
Can I respond to that?
30 seconds, please, and then
30
I have a
seconds.
question.
No, number one, he says that we're learning to live with it. People are learning to die with it. You folks home will have an empty chair at the kitchen table this morning. That man or wife going to bed tonight and reaching over to try to touch their, out of habit, where their wife or husband was, is gone. Learning to live with it. Come on. We're dying with it because he's never said.
Come on.
He said
I
it's
told you he was
dangerous.
gonna say that.
Totally
When's the
agree with
last
you,
time?
Guitar.
Is it really dangerous still?
I
Are we
totally
dangerous?
agree
You
with
tell
you,
the people
Guitar.
it's dangerous now? What should they do about the danger? And you say, I take no responsibility.
Let me talk about your two.
Excuse me, I take full responsibility.
Ooh.
It's not my fault that it came here. It's China's fault. And you know what? It's not Joe's fault that it came here either. It's China's fault.
Wow.
They kept it from going into the rest of China for the most part, but they didn't keep it from coming out to the world, including Europe and ourselves.
That's
Vice
interesting.
President Biden.
The fact is,
What's
that
interesting?
when we knew it was coming, when it hit,
flat out, he
what
accepted
happened?
it.
What did the president say? He said, don't worry.
He learned
it's
from
gonna
his
go
mistake
away.
the last
Be
time,
gone by Easter.
and
Don't worry.
he knows that
Warm
Joe's
weather.
gassing him.
Don't worry. Maybe inject bleach. He said he was kidding when he said that, but a lot of people thought it was serious. A whole range of things the president
3
said.
people did die
Even
from that
today,
suggestion.
He thinks we
That's
are
their
in
dumb
control.
fault.
We're about to lose
Come on, bro.
100,000 more
Facts.
people.
President Trump.
Look, perhaps just to finish this, I was kidding on that, but just to finish this, when I closed, he said I shouldn't have closed. And that went on for months. Nancy Pelosi said the same thing. She was dancing on the streets in Chinatown in San Francisco. But when I closed, he said, this is a terrible thing, you're xenophobic. I think he called me racist even, and because I was closing it to China. Now he says I should have closed it earlier. It just, Joe, it doesn't work.
I didn't say either of those things.
You
I didn't
certainly
say
did.
Sugar
You
Coercy,
certainly
and I
did.
Yes, you did.
I talked
Mute
about
the mic.
xenophobia in a different context. It wasn't about closing the border to Chinese coming to the United States.
All right, I want to talk about both of your different strategies to handling
He thought
this.
I shouldn't have closed the border.
Well,
That's obvious.
Do you want to respond to that quickly, Vice President
No.
Biden? Okay. Let's talk about your different strategies toward dealing with
Yes,
this.
he wants
Mr.
to
Vice
move
President,
on.
you suggested you would support new shutdowns if scientists
Why is she spending so
recommended
much
it.
time on
What
this?
do you say to Americans who are
This is
fearful that the
obviously-
cost of
Because
shutdowns, the impact on
240,000
the
people,
economy, the higher rates of
223,000 people
hunger,
are dead.
depression, domestic and substance abuse outweighs
There's other
the risk of
things
exposure
that we
the
need to talk
virus?
about
What I
instead
would
of
say
spending
is
15
I'm gonna
minutes
shut
on
down
this.
the virus, not the country. It's his ineptitude that caused the country to have to shut down in large part. Why businesses have gone
Caused
under,
the
why
virus
schools are closed, why so many people have lost their living, and why they're concerned. Those other concerns are real. That's why he should have been, instead of in a sand trap in his golf course, he should have been negotiating with Nancy Pelosi and the rest of the Democrats and Republicans about
Verbal
what
jabs.
to do about the acts they were passing for billions of dollars to make sure people had the capacity.
But you haven't ruled out more shutdowns.
Now he should have not
no,
said that.
I'm not shutting down the name, but there are, look, you need standards.
you
The
gotta shut
standard is
down.
if you have a reproduction rate in a community that's above a certain level, everybody says, slow up, more social distancing, do not open bars and do not open gymnasiums, do not open until you get this under control. under more control. But when you do open, give the people the capacity to be able to open and have the capacity to do it safely.
Okay.
For example, schools. Schools, they need a lot of money to open. They need to deal with ventilation systems. They need to deal with smaller classes, more teachers, more pods. And he's refused to support that money, or at least up to now.
Let's talk about schools. President Trump,
I think we have to respond, if I might.
Please, and then I have a follow-up.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. Look, all he does
Thank
is
you,
talk
Guitar.
about shutdowns.
You're completely
but forget
right.
about him. His Democrat governors, Cuomo in New York, you look at what's going on in California, you look at Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Democrats all, they're shut down so tight, and they're dying. They're dying. And he supports all these people.
That's
all
very
he
true.
talks about is shutdowns. No, we're not going to shut down, and we have to open our schools. And it's like, as an example, I have a young son. He also tested positive. By the time I spoke to the doctor the second time, he was fine. It just went away. Young people,
But
I guess it's their immune
exception is
system.
not
Let me
the
follow up
rule.
with you, President Trump. You've
But
demanded
no, it's
schools
not- it's-
open in
no,
person
it's-
and
it's-
insist
it's
they can do it
anecdotal.
safely. But just
That's
yesterday,
anecdotal, but
Boston
it does
became
speak
the
to
latest
probably
city to move
millions
its
of other
public
people
school
in this
system
country who have the
entirely
same
online
experience.
after
But what
the
about the
coronavirus
240,000
spike.
are
What is your
dead?
message to
Versus
parents
the
who worry that sending
328
their
million
children
that
to
are still
school will
alive?
endanger not only their
The number's
kids, but
still
also their
climbing,
teachers
bro.
and families?
The
I want
number
all
is
of the
still climbing.
schools. The transmittal rate to the teachers is very small. But I
No,
want
it's
to open the
not.
schools.
He's
We have to
lying.
open our country. We're not going to have a
mean,
country.
the only way we can
You
confirm
can't
it
do
is if we
this.
have
We
data.
can't keep this country closed. This is a
You're not
massive
going to use human
country with a
lives
massive
as guinea
economy.
pigs.
People are losing their jobs. They're committing suicide. There's depression, alcohol, drugs at a level that nobody's ever seen before.
Blaming the virus.
There's abuse,
not blaming the
tremendous
virus.
abuse.
Okay.
We have to
He's
open our
saying
country.
this is a byproduct
I've
of
said
shutting
it
down.
often. The cure cannot be worse than the problem itself.
Vice
And that's
President.
what's happening. And he wants to close down. He'll close down the country if one person in our massive bureaucracy says we should close it down.
Vice
Okay,
President
can I-
Biden, your
let's
response.
Simply not
read this
true.
real quick because they
Good.
keep going back and forth. Real quick. Australia just last week had their first full stadium packed football game because they have no cases of COVID. We have to acknowledge to some degree, and Brock, to answer your question about comorbidities being attributed to COVID deaths, if a person was living fine with their diabetes before they caught COVID, and then when they caught COVID, they died, that is a COVID-related death from a medical standpoint. That is the if I'm from a forensic pathologist perspective, that is how you have to write that. My thing is, the back and forth doesn't matter. The problem is people are dying. Eric? Nothing?
No, I'm sorry. I was listening to Trump. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. I'm going back to it.
Really
Then.
expensive, and it's not the answer. I mean, you're
I
going to
didn't-
sit
I
there
didn't
in a
even hear what you
cubicle
said.
wrapped
I know we're
around
talking
with
about comorbidities,
plastic.
but
it's
if
these are businesses
if
that are
I'm
dying.
going by the numbers that the CDC put out, the reason the majority of people that are dying are over 55 years old. So while I would not say that's not significant, what I will say though is, out of respect for those and people in their age range, we should just wear masks, especially when we're around them, wipe down surfaces, and practice some physical distancing.
And look at the states that are
We're
having
staying
such a
shut down?
spike.
Absolutely
in
not. We got to go out here and
coronavirus.
work. If we
They're
don't
the
work,
red
we don't
states.
eat. We got
They're the
we got
states
people
in the
to take
Midwest.
care
They're
of.
the
So
states
I'm
in
gonna
the
go out
upper
here and
Midwest. That's where the
risk it
spike
for
is.
me and mine.
Or
I think
the government can just give us some money.
no, the government doesn't have any money to give us. That's the problem. We're gonna end up paying for this in the end. Like we can't. We need to get the economy
We
back.
literally
going,
print
bro.
our own money.
It's been out there
Exactly,
since
and
the beginning of
we're
the
printing $1
summer,
trillion
and
a
nothing's
day,
happened.
and it's going to the banks. And what are they doing with it? Not being
So let's
responsible.
guarantee that the money doesn't go to bank. Let's get some oversight.
President Trump, what
No.
about
Say
We
spy.
have oversight, and it's the Congress that has oversight, and they're failing.
And Mitch McConnell is failing us at that.
No, the Congress has power over the money, not the Senate.
Okay, Senate and House.
Prison. Now it was just
No,
ruled
the
unconstitutional.
Constitution says
Take a
Congress
look at North
has the
Carolina.
right to
They're
print
having
and coin
spikes,
money, which
and
they
they've been
turned
closed.
over
And
to the Federal Reserve Bank, which is that has carte blanche to print money.
And we understand the disease. We have to protect our
They still
seniors.
talking
We have
about
to
this
protect
virus.
our
I'm ready for a
elderly. We
change.
have to
I
protect,
told you, bro. Like,
especially
we
our
gotta get off
seniors with
this.
heart problems and
So
diabetes
who
problems.
does this
And
benefit?
we will
This
protect them. We have
honestly
the best
is
testing in the world
there
by
for
far.
one purpose.
That's why we have so many cases.
Let me follow up
It's a
with you
joke.
before we
hoping
move
that
on
Trump
to
will
our
put
next
his
You're
section.
fingers
absolutely
President
right,
Trump,
Jess.
this week you called Dr. Anthony.
Those kids walking around, those 50-year-old teachers can spread the virus.
Exactly. They can, because most of them are asymptomatic or recover quickly.
I'm listening to all of them,
Exactly.
including Anthony. I get along very well with Anthony. But
No, you don't get it. That's
he
a
did
lie.
say,
He called Anthony a
don't wear
fool.
masks. He did say, as you know, this is not going to be a problem. I think he's a Democrat, but that's
That's a
okay.
lie.
He said this is not going to be a
Now
problem.
he just called him a
This is
Democrat.
We are not
That's
going to have a
crazy.
problem at all.
This is
When Joe
actually on
says that,
video, though.
I said, Anthony Fauci said, and others, and many others, and I'm not knocking him a lot. Nobody knew. Look, nobody knew what this thing was. Nobody knew where it was coming from, what it was. We've learned a lot. But Anthony said, don't wear masks. Now he wants to wear masks. Anthony also said,
Okay,
if you
that's
look
a
back,
lie.
exact
And
words,
can we-
use his exact
No,
words.
that's not
this
a
is no
lie.
problem. This
No,
is
we have that on
always
video.
not. So he's allowed
it's
to make
dishonest
mistakes.
at
He
best.
happens to be a good person.
he's
Vice President
quoting
Biden, your
him.
response quickly, and then
So when he first said that, why did Anthony Fauci say not to wear masks? We know why he said that. Because he didn't want the mask to be hoarded like the fucking tissue paper. Damn it.
Okay, well, there's another F-bomb. But again,
And
why?
in an effort to
But
make sure that
did he say it? Yes or no? Whatever the reason, did he say
it's
it?
dishonest. It's
It's not
dishonest
dishonest.
without context. It's dishonest. Eric, you can take hundreds of our snippets of our conversation and put it into context. Let the chat decide. Identifiers, is that dishonest for the way he's quoting him?
His administration, but from some of the brokers said, sell short because we got to get moving. It's a dangerous problem.
Well, this is
I'm going to give you 30 seconds to respond, and then we're
the
going
Wall
to
Street
move
one,
on.
I don't know. Somebody went to Wall Street. You're the one that takes all the money from Wall Street. I don't take it.
Ooh.
I have.
You have raised a lot of money, tremendous amounts of money. And every time you raise money, deals are made, Joe. I could raise so much more money as president and as somebody that knows most
always
of
a
those people.
competition.
I could call the heads of Wall Street, the heads of every company in America. I would blow away every record, but I don't want to do that because it puts me in a bad position. And then you bring up Wall Street. You shouldn't be bringing up Wall Street because you're the one that takes the money from Wall Street, not me. I could blow away your records. That, like you
Why
wouldn't
does
believe. We
he
don't
care
need
about how
money.
much
We have
money
plenty of
Joe
money. In
Biden
fact,
raises?
It's
we
about
beat
the
Hillary
people
Clinton
who
with
he
a
takes
tiny
it from.
fraction of the
Who
money
he
that
take
she
money
was
from
able.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to
Don't
move
tell me
on.
about
average
We're gonna-
contribution
Does Trump not take
$43.
super PAC
All right,
money?
we're going to move on to our next section, which is
Thank
national
God.
security. And I do want to start
And
with
that's
the
a lie. Go
security
ahead,
of
mark
our
that down for
elections
your
and
boy.
some breaking news from overnight. Just last night,
finna
top
drop a
intelligence
link in
officials
here for
confirmed again
context
that
for my
both
boy
Russia
Heero.
and Iran are working to influence this election. Both countries have obtained U.S. voter registration information, these officials say, and Iran sent intimidating messages to Florida voters. This question goes to you, Mr. Vice. To put an end to this threat, you have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
I made it clear, and I ask everyone else to take the pledge. I made it clear that any country, no matter who
Shout
it
out to
is,
Jesse. He
interferes
says,
in
"I would
American elections
to
will
Biden. I would
pay
do
a
what you
price."
do better, but what you do is bad." It's a contradiction.
I won't even get into the last one. This
And I did
election,
drop a link in there
Russia
to
has
the
been
Anthony
involved,
Fauci in the
China's been
YouTube
involved
chat.
to some degree, and now we
also
learned that
who's watching on Facebook.
Iran is involved.
Shout out,
They
I'm gonna drop it in
will
for my
pay a
Facebook
price
page
if
as
I'm
well.
elected. They're interfering with American
Drop.
sovereignty.
Yeah, make sure we
That's
give
what's
y'all
going on
context
right now.
in
They're
these
interfering with
arguments.
American
Yeah.
sovereignty. And to the
Truth
best of
over
my knowledge,
feelings.
I don't think the president said
facts
anything to
over
Putin
feelings,
about
like
it.
that.
I don't think he's stalking them a lot. I don't think he said a word. I don't know why he hadn't said a word to Putin about it. And I don't know what he has recently said, if anything, to the Iranians. My
That's who we
guess
should've
is he's
put in,
probably
Russia.
more
Dang it.
outspoken with regard to the Iranians. But
think
the
he's gonna
point
say
is this,
Obama?
folks.
not
We
too
are in a
late.
situation where we have foreign
He's going to say Obama.
countries trying to interfere in the outcome of our election. His own national security advisor told him that.
Oh, here we
what
go
is
with this
happening
old
with
drummed
his
up bull
buddy-
crap from 4 years
Well,
ago.
I should-
Find something
I
else to
will.
talk about.
His buddy
But it's
Rudy
happening
Giuliani.
right now.
He's being
No,
used
it
as
isn't.
a Russian
It's
pawn.
already, what you're
He's
talking
being
about
fed
is an
information
absolute
that is
lie.
Russian,
The FBI is
that
very
not
clear that
true.
there's no
And then
Russia
what happened?
involvement. The
They're
FBI actually
literally-
came,
the
the
national-
FBI just came out and said that 2 days ago.
Okay, so what's this? They're literally debating about it right now. Eric, you didn't just hear the question?
I did, and no, I'm just telling you what the FBI said.
They know
Oh yeah, but
me.
the FBI
I don't
doesn't dictate
understand
national
why this
security.
president is unwilling to
Okay,
take on
and
Putin when
Radcliffe
he's
came
actually
out, the
paying
national
bounties
security
to kill American soldiers in
head of
Afghanistan,
national security,
when he's
the
engaged in
intelligence community.
activities
So
that
you're
are
saying that
trying to destabilize
the
all of
intelligence
NATO.
The
I
head
don't
of-
know why he doesn't do it, but it's worth asking the question.
obvious
Why
reasons.
isn't that being
Okay.
done?
But John
Any
Ratcliffe
country
came out and
interferes
said
with us
there's no
will,
Russian
in
involvement.
fact, pay a price because they're affecting our
And
sovereignty.
then what was that company that
President
used
Trump,
to
same
to
question
check,
to you.
to
Let
fact
me
check?
let me ask
Also
the
came out and
question.
said
You're
there
going
was
to
no
have 2
Russian
minutes to
collusion?
respond. For 2 elections in a row now, there has been substantial interference from foreign adversaries.
He's being
what would you do in
quite
your
tame,
next
and I'm
term
enjoying
to put
it.
an end to this? 2 minutes
Well,
uninterrupted.
let me respond to the first part as Joe answered. Joe got $3.5 million from Russia, and it came through Putin because he was very friendly with the former mayor of Moscow, and it was the mayor of Moscow's wife. And you got $3.5 million. Your family got $3.5 million. And, you know, someday you're going to have to explain, why did you get 3.5? I never got any money from Russia. I don't get money from Russia. Now, about your thing last night, I knew all about that. And through John Ratcliffe, who is fantastic, DNI, he said,
See?
the one thing that's common to both of them, they both want you to lose because there has been nobody
Okay, so
tougher
they
to
are
Russia.
messing with the election.
Between
He
the
just
sanctions,
admitted it.
nobody tougher than me on
I'm taking
Russia.
that back.
Between the sanctions, between all of what I've done with NATO, you know, I've got the NATO countries to put up an extra $130 billion, going to $420 billion a year. That's to guard against Russia. I sold, while he was selling pillows and sheets, I sold tank busters to Ukraine. There has been nobody tougher on Russia than Donald Trump. And I'll tell you, they were so bad. They took
Referring to
over
himself in the third
the
person.
submarine port. You remember that
poor
very
taste.
well. During your term, during you and Barack Obama, they took over a big part of what should have been Ukraine. You handed it to them. But you were getting a lot of money from Russia. They were paying you a lot of money, and they probably still are. But now, with what came out today, it's even worse. All of the emails, the horrible emails of the kind of money that you were raking
here we
in,
go.
you and your family.
Oh, my
And Joe,
goodness.
you were vice president when some of this was
listening.
happening, and it should have never
Start
happened.
answering the
And
questions
I
you
think
with
you
the
owe
eggplant
an
measuring.
explanation
Shout
to
out
the
to Brock.
American people.
That's gonna be-
Why
that's
is
the-
it? Somebody
that's
just
the
had a
comment
news
of the-
conference
of
a
the
little
night so
while
far.
ago who was essentially supposed to work with you and your family. But what he said was damning. And
Brock,
regardless
please.
of me,
Brock,
I think you have to clean it
you
up
are
and
so
talk
right.
to the American people. Maybe you can do it right
Both of
now.
y'all stroke games weak as fuck. Just
President Biden, you
politics.
may respond. in 30
straight
seconds.
here.
And then I do
F-bomb.
want to follow up on the
Bro.
election
Damn it.
security.
I have
Bro,
not taken
listen,
a
you finna
penny
get that
from
shadow
any
ban on this
foreign
junk.
source ever in my life. We learned that this president paid 50 times the tax in
Jesse
China.
says they
has a
should just
secret
arm
bank
us so they
account
can actually
with
debate
China,
afterwards.
does business in China, and in fact is
Now, what they
talking
need to
about
do
me
is pull down
taking
their
money.
pants and whip
I have
out the
not
little
taken a
pecker and see
single
who can
penny
pee
from
the
any
farthest and then
country
debate.
whatsoever, ever. Number one. Number two, this is a president I have released
Okay, that's
all of my
obvious
tax
lie,
returns.
Joe.
22
A lie.
years.
No,
Go look at them.
no.
22 years of
You
my
just
tax
got
returns.
accused by a
You have
dude.
not released a single solitary year of your tax return. What are
Ooh.
you hiding? Why are you
Ooh.
unwilling? The foreign countries are paying you a lot. Russia's paying you a lot. China's paying you a lot. And your hotels and all your businesses all around the country, all around the world. And China's building a new road to a new a golf course you have overseas. On here, why don't release your tax return or stop talking about corruption?
President Trump, your response.
First of all, I called
Verbal
my
jab?
accountants under audit. I'm going to release them as soon as we can. I want to do it, and it'll show how successful, how great this company is. But much more importantly than that, people were saying $750. I asked them a week ago, I said, what did I pay? They said, sir, you prepaid tens of millions of dollars. I prepaid my tax. Tens over the last
That's a
number of
lie.
years. Tens of
Well,
millions of dollars.
it's not a
I
lie. We don't know
prepaid.
until the documents
Because
are
at some point they
I'll take
think
it back.
it's an estimate. They think I may have to pay tax. So I already prepaid it. Nobody
And
told
that
me
is
that.
something
Did your
somebody
accountant
Nobody
tell you
told
when
you
you
that.
released
Excuse
them?
me. And it
Based
wasn't
on what
written
you
whatever
read,
they
what
were
you
they
did the
just
previous
keep talking
year.
about $750, which I think is a filing fee. But let me just tell you, I prepaid millions and millions of
Hey,
dollars
that's a lie.
in
It was a
taxes.
federal tax.
Number one. Number two, I
It
don't
wasn't
make
a
money
fee.
from China. You do. I don't make
China?
money from Ukraine. You do. I don't make money from Russia.
These are facts.
You made $3.5 million, Joe, and your son gave you. They
I don't
even
know
have
about
a
the Russia
statement
thing, but the
that
Ukraine and
we
the
have to
China
give
thing
10%
are
to the big man.
definitely
You're the big man, I
probably
think.
valid.
I don't know. Maybe you're not. but you're the big man, I think. Your son said we have to give 10% to the big man. Joe, what's that all about? It's terrible.
All right, gentlemen, I want to ask you both some questions about all of this, but I'm going to let you both respond very quickly. You just said you spoke to your accountant about potentially releasing your taxes. Did he tell you when you can release them? Do you have a deadline for when you're going to release them to the American people?
I get treated worse than the Tea Party got treated. Because I have a lot of people in there, deep down in the IRS, they treat me horribly. We made a deal, it was all settled until I decide to run for president. I get treated very badly by the IRS, very unfairly. But we had a deal all done. As soon as we're completed with the deal, I want to release it. But I have paid millions and millions of dollars, and it's worse than paying. I paid in advance. It's called prepaying your taxes. I paid in advance.
I want to ask you both about questions regarding your potential foreign entanglements and questions that have been raised to give you both a chance to talk about this more broadly. Respond very quickly, and then I'll get to my question.
Why did he's been saying this for 4 years? Show us. Just show us. Stop playing around. You've been saying for 4 years you're going to release your taxes. Nobody knows it, Mr. President. What they do know is you're not paying your taxes, or you're paying taxes that are so low.
So let me look up Joe Biden's tax returns.
He said, I only pay that little because I'm smart. I know how to game the system. Come on. Come on, folks.
So,
who created the system?
Seems sketchy. Fucking right.
I was put through a phony witch hunt for 3 years. It started before I even got elected. They spied on my campaign. No president should ever have to go through what I went through.
That's a fact.
If someone spied on a presidential election that was a citizen, that's a felony.
And FBI agents all over the place
charged.
spent
That's a lie.
$48 million. They went through everything I had, including my tax returns, and they found absolutely no collusion and nothing wrong. $48 million. I guarantee you, if I spent $1 million on you, Joe, I could find plenty wrong. Because the kind of things that you've done and the kind of money that your family has taken. I mean, your brother made money in Iraq, millions of dollars. Your other brother made a fortune. And it's all through you, Joe. And they say you get some of it. And you do live very well. You have houses all over the place. You live very well.
All right, gentlemen, let me just ask some questions about all of this broadly. Vice President Biden, there have been questions about the work your son has done in China and for a Ukrainian energy company when you were vice president. In retrospect, was anything about those relationships inappropriate or unethical?
Yeah, he is old.
Nothing was unethical.
7A.
Here's what the deal.
Schedule
regarding
1.
Ukraine, we had
$985,000
because he was on the board. I later learned of a company that somehow I had done something wrong. Yet every single solitary person, when he was going through his impeachment, testifying under oath who worked for him, said, I did my job impeccably. I carried out U.S. policy. Not one single solitary thing was out of line. Not a single thing, number one. Number two, the guy who got in trouble in Ukraine was this guy trying to bribe the Ukrainian government to say something negative about me, which they would not do and did not do because it never, ever, ever happened. My son has not made money in terms of this thing about, what are you talking about, China. I have not had, the only guy who made money from China is this guy. He's the only one. Nobody else has made money from China.
President Trump, let me ask my question to you.
But could I just one thing?
Very quickly.
His son didn't have a job for a long time, was sadly no longer in the military service. I won't get into that. And he didn't have a job. As soon as he became vice president, Burisma, not the best reputation in the world. I hear they paid him $183,000 a month. Listen to this. $183, and they gave him a $3 million upfront payment.
All right.
And he had no energy.
I'm going to let the Vice President respond to that quickly, and then I need to get to a question to you. Very quickly.
No basis for that. Everybody investigated that. No one said anything he did was wrong.
They just muted Trump.
Okay, President Trump, this is for you. Since you took office, you've never divested from your business. You personally promoted your properties abroad.
Biden with the Chinas. Let's talk about America.
Reference does indicate that your company has a bank account in China. So how can voters know that you don't have any foreign conflicts of interest?
I have many bank accounts, and they're all listed, and they're all over the place. I mean, I was a businessman doing business. The bank account you're referring to, which is everybody knows about it, it's listed. The bank account was in 2013. That's what it was. It was open to do. It was closed in 2015, I believe. And then I decided, because I was thinking about doing a deal in China like millions of other people. I was thinking about it, and I decided I'm not going to do it. Didn't like it. I decided not to do it. Had an account open, and I closed it.
Okay.
Excuse me. And then, unlike him, where he's vice president and he does business, I then decided to run for president after that. That was before. So I closed it before I even ran for president, let alone became president. Big difference. He is the vice president of the United States, and his son, his brother, and his other brother are getting rich. They're like a vacuum cleaner. They're sucking up money
President
every
Trump,
place
thank
he
you.
goes.
We do need to move on. I do want to ask you, Vice President Biden, about China. Let's talk about China more broadly. There have, of course, President Trump has said that they should pay for not being fully transparent in regards to the coronavirus. If you were president, would you make China pay? And please be specific. What would that look like?
What I'd make China do is play by the international rules, not like he has done. He has caused the deficit of China to go up, not down, with China, up, not down. We are making sure that in order to do business in China, you have to give all your intellectual property. You have to have a partner in China. It's 51%. We would not do that at all, number one. Number two, we're in a situation where China would have to play by the rules internationally as well. When I met with Xi, when I was still vice president, he said we're setting up air identification zones in the South China Sea. You can't fly through them. I said we're going to fly through them. We just flew B-52, B-1 bombers through it. We're not going to pay attention. They have to play by the rules. And what's he do? He embraces guys like the thugs like in North Korea and the Chinese president and Putin and others, and he pokes his finger in the eye of all of our friends, all of our allies. We make up we're 25% of the world's economy.
Not
we
at all.
need to be having the rest of our friends with us saying to China,
Yeah.
these are the rules. You play by them or you're going to pay the price for not paying by them economically. That's the way I will run it.
Exactly.
And that's what we did.
Are we talking about them
steel
anymore?
tariffs and a range of other things when we were president and vice president.
All right, let's talk about North Korea.
Excuse me, no, I have to respond to that.
Okay.
Two-term
Very quickly, and then
Son
we're going to move
walked
on
out
to
with
North
$1.5 billion from China to
Not
manage after
true.
spending 10 minutes in office and being in Air Force Two.
Lie.
Number one. Number two,
Air
there's a
Force
very
Two.
strong email
grabbed
talking
China
about
by the-
your family wanting to make
the
$10 million
key and
a
told them
year
to stop
for
bending this over in my
introductions.
opinion.
President Trump,
I
on China
completely
policy,
agree
though,
with
what
Barack
No, but
specifically
wait a
are you going to do? What specifically are you going to do to make China pay? You've said you're going
First
to
of
make
all,
them pay.
China is paying. They're paying billions and billions of dollars. I just gave
New
$28 billion.
sanctions? New
He has
sanctions?
been rough.
I just
he
gave
has
$28
been rough
billion
on
to our
China,
farmers.
but I don't
Taxpayers'
think
money.
he wants the trade war.
It's what?
Okay,
Taxpayers'
so
money.
It's funny how
It
you
comes
No,
from
yeah,
China.
you know the taxpayer is.
he's been beating them over the head,
Okay,
but he's taking
so-
money from them too. That
Okay,
doesn't make
but like,
sense.
are we all clear on how tariffs work? Like, we know that we the people pay the tariff tax eventually, right?
Eventually.
So my whole thing is you can't keep increasing tariffs because you're only hurting us. And the fact that he still has business dealings in China doesn't help his argument right now. He can't say he's being tough on China while he has no, I was about to drop an F-bomb, but I didn't do it. While he has business deals with his hotels being done. You feel me?
So Trump's supposed to completely get rid of his entire business because he's the president of the United States. Is that what you're telling me?
Isn't that what the other presidents did? What's that dude's name? Who gave up his apple orchard?
Apple orchard?
Yeah, he gave up his whole entire farm when he became president.
I don't know who you're talking about.
Oh shit! Hold on, let me Google this.
And again, you think that's absolutely unrealistic. This dude's not a politician, so he's supposed to just liquidate his
But
entire
that's
business
part of the
dealings.
job. You're supposed to
It is not.
dissolve
No,
your assets.
no. It's funny because Barack Obama was bum freaking broke. Now he's got 48 acres in Martha's Vineyard. How the hell did he get that money?
You know how much it costs for him to come talk at a book signing?
Not enough for him to
$400
be
a
able to
ticket.
afford 48 acres in Martha's Vineyard.
When you charging $400 per book signing, you can
All
do
right.
whatever you want.
Okay, well we gonna drop something in here for you.
You've touted the fact that there hasn't been a war or a long-range missile test, and yet North Korea recently rolled out its biggest ever intercontinental ballistic missile and continues to develop its nuclear arsenal. Do you see that as a betrayal of the relationship you forged? Just 30 seconds here because we need to get on to the next.
So when I met with Barack Obama, we sat in the White House right at the beginning, had a great conversation. It was supposed to be 15 minutes, and it was well over an hour. He said the biggest problem we have with North Korea. He indicated we will be in a war with North Korea. Guess what? It would be a nuclear war, and he does have plenty of nuclear capability. In the meantime, I have a very good relationship with him. Different kind of a guy, but he probably thinks the same thing about me. We have a different kind of a relationship. We have a very good relationship, and there's no war. And, you know, about 2 months ago, he broke into a certain area. They said, oh, there's going to be trouble. I said, no, they're not, because he's not going to do that. And I was right. Look, instead of being in a war where millions of people, Seoul, you know, is 25 miles away, millions and millions, 32 million people in Seoul, millions of people would be dead right now.
President
we
Trump,
don't have
that's
a war,
30
and
seconds.
I have a good
Thank
relationship.
you. Vice President Biden, to you. North Korea conducted 4 nuclear tests under the Obama administration. Why do you think you would be able to rein in this persistent threat?
Because I'd make it clear, which we were making clear to China, they had to be part of the deal. Because here's the I made it clear, and as a spokesperson of the administration when I went to China, that they said, why are you moving your missile defense up so close? Why are you moving more forces here? Why are you continuing to do military maneuvers with South Korea? I said, because North Korea is a problem, and we're going to continue to do it so we can control them. We're going to make sure we can control them and make sure they cannot hurt us. And so if you want to do something about it, step up and help. If not, it's going to continue. What has he done? He's legitimized North Korea. He's talked about his good buddy who's a...
Brock says the same thing can be said about the $5 trillion deal the Dems want. We the people will always have to pay the bill no matter what in regards to your tariff statement. We're always on the hook.
Oh, the five, wait, what do Democrats want $5 trillion for?
The first deal was a $5 trillion deal.
Yeah, but it's not $5 trillion. I mean, Brock, if you're going to talk about numbers, talk about the numbers currently, not...
No, he's talking about the first deal was $5 trillion, and I already told you where the majority of that money went.
Okay, but it's not. Okay, once again, we're talking about something that doesn't exist anymore. It's not $5 trillion anymore.
Okay, so we're talking about the deal. Okay, so the deal right now, why isn't it going through? Because Nancy Pelosi said on Kara Swisher interview she's not going to do it so Trump can get his name on a check. She doesn't give a damn about the American people. That's her quote.
Said, okay, that's one thing, but she also said she wants more money for the people, and that would be covered with a $2 trillion deal.
The rest of Europe. Come on.
Trump said send a bill, he would sign it. She said no because she doesn't want his name on.
I mean, that's part of it, but also
that's the main part. No, so that means she's stopping
people
from
getting money. Did she not acknowledge that she needs more money?
She wants more money for why? So she can be irresponsible like she was in the first time.
That she wants more money.
President Trump? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So can you acknowledge that she was irresponsible with the first amount of money that she got?
I thought it was Congress. Why is it her fault?
Because she's the Speaker of the House, Congress.
Is it Congress?
Which is Democrat run.
The Congress is Democrat run. Or it's two parties.
Obama would be, I think, the first to say it was
Congress
the single
is the
biggest
one who's
problem he
pushing
thought
this through.
that our country.
Okay, let's move on to American families and the economy. One of the issues that's most important to them is health care, as you both know. Today, there was a key vote on a new Supreme Court Justice, Amy Coney Barrett, and health care is at the center of her confirmation fight. Over 20 million Americans get their health insurance through the Affordable Care Act. It's headed to the Supreme Court, and your administration, Mr. President, is advocating for the court to overturn it. If the Supreme Court does overturn that law, those 20 million Americans could lose their health insurance almost overnight. So what would you do if those people have their health insurance taken away? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Sure. First of all, I've already done something that nobody thought was possible. Through the legislature, I terminated the individual mandate. That is the worst part of Obamacare, as we call it. The individual mandate where you have to pay a fortune for the privilege of not having to pay for bad health insurance. I terminated. It's gone. Now it's in court because Obamacare is no good. But then I made a decision: run it as well as you can to my people, great people. Run it
Brock,
as well as you
please,
can. I
Brock,
could have
go
gone the
ahead
other route and made everybody very
lay
unhappy.
some
They
knowledge
ran
on
it.
in the chat.
Premiums are down. Everything's down. Here's the problem.
Me and
No
Brock
matter
have
how
had
well
a
you run
long
it, it's no
conversation about
good.
this
What we'd
Obamacare.
like to do is
He knows better than us
terminate
'cause
it.
he works for
We have the
himself.
individual mandate done.
We
I
work
don't
in
know that it's
healthcare.
going to work. If we
No,
don't
but
win,
we don't have
we
to
will
have
have to run
Obamacare.
it,
We have
and we'll
Blue
have
Cross Blue Shield,
Obamacare, but
United
it'll be
Healthcare,
better run.
Cigna.
But it no
We don't
longer
have
is
Obamacare.
Obamacare, because
We
without the
wouldn't pay for
individual
it.
mandate, it's much different. Pre-existing
way too
conditions
expensive.
will always stay. What I would like to do is a much better health care, much better,
Real quick.
will always protect people with pre-existing. So I'd like to terminate Obamacare, come up with a brand new,
Real quick.
Can't terminate Obamacare
You
though.
can't,
You can't terminate it.
We agree on that. Hey, real quick, Higgs, you are in the chat right now. Eric does Forex, and he has a bunch of people in the party right now that do Forex and do stocks. Put your link in the chat real quick so we can link up and talk about this money.
Let's get him on a podcast.
care, far more than we're talking about with Obamacare. Joe Biden is going to
Thank you,
terminate
Jess.
all of those policies. These are people that love their health care, people that have been successful, middle-income people, been successful. They have 180 million plans, 180 million
Jesse says, to
people,
be fair,
families.
Americans benefit
Under
from
what
not
he
being
wants
billed,
to do,
though.
which will
I'm like,
basically be socialized
Jesse,
medicine.
I'm
He
gonna
won't
need you
even
to,
have a
I'm gonna
choice.
need you to unpack
They
that a
want to
little bit
terminate
more. How
180
do
million
American
plans.
people
We have
benefit
done an
from that
incredible
bill?
job on
Because
health
it's more
care,
money for them.
and we're going to do even better.
Yeah,
Okay,
Brock, you can't
Vice
terminate
President Biden,
Obamacare.
yes, this
You're
is for you.
insane.
Your health care plan calls for building on Obamacare. So my question is, what is your plan if the
Shout out to
law is
Guitar.
ruled
You're watching the wrong
unconstitutional by the
program for
Supreme
straight
Court?
answers.
You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
What I'm going to do is pass
Guitar,
Obamacare
help
with a
me,
public
man.
option.
Help me.
Will become Biden care. The public option is an option that says
Oh,
that
he said
if
Biden
you in
care.
fact
I like
do not
it.
have the
Own it.
wherewithal to be, if you qualify for Medicaid and you do not have the wherewithal in your state to get Medicaid, you automatically are enrolled, providing competition for insurance companies. That's what's going to happen. Secondly, we're going to make sure we reduce the
Still,
premiums
this is
and reduce
bullcrap.
drug prices
The
by
5,
making sure
6
that
of us
the
on here are
competition
smarter.
It's
that doesn't
the
exist now by
we're
allowing
smarter than
the
these people.
Medicare
We know
to
exactly how to fix
negotiate
this.
drug prices.
And this is
with
the problem. The reason why they don't
insurance
is because
companies.
they are
Thirdly,
getting their pockets
the
lined by the
idea
insurance
that I want to
companies.
eliminate
Let's mute this then. Okay, so Eric, we can say this. Everyone knows that I'm for single payer. I think that
And
we should just have
I lean more that way.
and that way we have transparency, the ability to immediately look on books. 2, we can funnel and function with the money. And 3, not only do you get doctor's choice, because everyone makes the excuse like doctors are going to lose money, hospitals are going to lose money.
Yes.
And hospitals losing money will come as a result of them not taking in patients, because you can't turn away the dude that doesn't have insurance anymore if everyone has insurance. You're literally making every American person a cash grab. You will take homeless people off the fucking street, damn it, and put them in your beds because you know the government will pay you for it. It is literally a free cash grab. But the insurance companies don't get to make money, and that's why everyone's angry.
So, Guitar says you can, but it has to go out without with a better plan already in place to transition to, which we didn't get an answer from T-Dog. Jesse says it's money put into American industry instead of just cutting out Chinese industry. So new money benefits versus old money benefits. But I'm with Jesse. Let's cut out the Chinese industry.
You can't. They're too big of a market now.
Brock says that actually hurts. The single payer actually hurts his industry, but he understands the need for it.
No, absolutely. And I hear you coming from the insurance aspect, but for too long, people have been suffering without it. Like we have, is this healthcare designed for the people or the insurance companies? That's the question. All right, let's get back to it because I don't know what the hell they're talking about.
a privilege, it's
Still
a
talking
right.
about healthcare.
Everyone should
Oh,
have the
scrap
right to have
asses.
affordable health care. And I am very proud of my plan. It's gotten endorsed by all the major labor unions as well as a whole range of other people who in fact are concerned in the medical field. This is something that's going to save people's lives, and this is going to give some people an opportunity to have health care for their children. How many of you home are worried and rolling around in bed tonight?
So
wondering
here's
what
a
in God's
question
name
that I
you're gonna
have.
do
If
you
this
get
was
sick?
so important to him, why
Because
didn't he
you
get
lost
it
your
done
home
when
insurance,
he was
your-
vice
your
president
health
instead of
insurance
watching his
should
son
cover you.
die?
Eric,
We have to
stop it. You act as if Obamacare had a yellow brick road passageway. They literally had to give up provisions in tax care and taxes to get the Republicans to sign this. Oh, don't do that, Eric. And how dare you invoke his son's name like that? As if he didn't have the best treatment for his son. That's low-hanging fruit, Eric.
It is. That's why I took it and ate it.
Okay.
Is
You are
more
horrible.
liberal than Bernie Sanders and wants it even more.
I know.
Bernie
But
Sanders
you know
wants
I
it.
don't like
The
this guy,
Democrats
so
want
it's
it.
okay.
You're going to have socialized medicine, just like you went with fracking. We're not going to have fracking. We're going to stop
Trump can
fracking. We're
basically
going to
say
stop
that at
fracking.
any
Then he goes
point,
to Pennsylvania
and it's
after he
gonna
gets a
hurt Biden
nomination where he got
47
very lucky to
years.
get it. And he goes to Pennsylvania and he says, oh, we're going to have fracking. And you never asked that question.
And Brock
And
said,
by the
"Shame
way,
on me."
So far, I respect very much the way you're handling this, I have to say.
By the way-
but
But I know
somebody
you
should ask the
laughing over
question.
there, so it's
You can
okay.
ask-
He
I'll
goes
take
for a
the laughs.
year. There will be
We
no
have
fracking. There
we
will
do
be
have
no
a number of
petroleum.
we have a number of topics we're
No,
going to
but
get
that's a
to.
big-
We
that's a big question.
we're going to get to we're going to get to
It's the same thing with socialized
I have to
medicine.
respond.
Vice President, your response, please.
My response is people deserve
And
to
you
have
didn't try.
affordable health care, period.
But I told you they were.
Period,
They're
period.
not-
I
They have
love
not.
it.
The Biden care
Yeah.
proposal
I
will, in
love
fact,
it.
provide for that affordable health care, lower premiums. What we're going to do is going to cost some money. It's going to cost over $750 billion over 10 years to do
So
it.
you know.
And they're
So
gonna
so
have lower
what does that
premiums. You can buy
mean?
into the
He's
better
going to
plans,
do?
the cheaper plans.
It's going to
lower your
cost some money.
premiums,
Means what?
Deal with
What is Joe Biden going to
Joe
have to
Biden's
do?
going to increase taxes on people, man. That's how we pay for shit here. Or hey, maybe this is just me. Hey, maybe we should stop all these goddamn wars.
Well, how do we go from 2 wars to 7? Under whose watch?
How many we got going on right now?
7.
I mean, it's Trump.
No. Who's trying to bring Trump? When he said, I'm pulling troops out, the left blew him up, called him weak, called him a coward. Thank you, Brock. War makes money.
Okay. And also, I don't know if you're seeing this in the chat. Congratulations, you've received 100 messages today on Reach Steam Chat. Yeah. Appreciate it. Tweet it.
Shout out to my brothers. I appreciate y'all coming in.
Thanks,
chat,
guys.
man.
That's all you guys right there. We appreciate you guys.
Guitar
we just
Brock and
received
Jesse
our first
holding us
trophy.
down.
One trophy down.
23.
Here we go. We're
With
back.
no way to make up for it. This is the guy who's tried to cut Medicare. So I mean, the idea that Donald Trump is lecturing me on Social Security and Medicare? Come on.
He tried to get
10
rid of.
seconds,
He
Mr.
tried to hurt
President, and then I
Social
have to go to
Security
another
years
question.
ago. Years ago. Go back and look at the records. He tried to hurt Social Security years ago.
All
One
right,
thing,
let's move
but
on.
this
I'm
is
going to
the
move
guy
on.
that when they announced
Mr. President, I have to
guy.
move on to the next question.
They said
or
the
else
stock
we're not
market
gonna
will
have time to talk
move
about it.
if I'm elected. If he's elected,
button on
the
it.
stock market will crash.
Okay, let's
biggest
move on to the
analysts are
next
saying
question
that.
very quickly.
Look, the idea that the stock market is booming is his only measure of what's happening. Where I come from in Scranton and Claymont, the people don't live off of the stock market. Just in the last three years during this crisis, the billionaires in this country made, according to the Wall Street, $700 billion more dollars. $700 billion more dollars, because that's his only measure. What happens to the ordinary people out there? What
Jesse,
happens to
there you
them?
go.
Let's talk about what's happening on Capitol Hill. We're
Wealth
going
cap.
to move on, gentlemen.
401ks are through the roof.
We're gonna
People's
move on.
stock are through the roof.
All right.
And he doesn't come from Scranton. That's
Jesse
like
says
one of
the-
he
the
lived
mute
there
button
for a
wins the
short
debate.
period
We're
of
gonna-
time
Yeah.
before
Okay,
he even knew
we're
it.
gonna move on to
and
the
he
next
left.
question.
And the people of Pennsylvania
Let me
will
move
show
on
you
to my
that.
next question,
They
gentlemen.
understand.
As of tonight, more than 12 million people are out of work. And as of tonight, 8 million more Americans have fallen into poverty, and more families are going hungry every day. Those hit hardest are women and people of color. They see Washington fighting over a relief bill. Mr. President, why haven't you been able to
Brock
get
says
them the
let
help
him
they need?
respond,
30
though.
seconds here.
Because Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to approve it. I do.
But you're the president.
I do, but I still have to get. Unfortunately, that's one of the reasons I think we're going to take over the House because of her. Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to approve anything because she'd love to have some victories on a date called November 3rd. Nancy Pelosi does not want to approve it. We are ready, willing, and able to do something. Don't forget, we've already approved 3 plans, and it's gone through, including the Democrats, in all fairness. This one she doesn't want. It's near the election because she thinks it helps her politically. I think it hurts her politically.
All right, Mr. Vice President,
You know, the Republican leader in the United States
was
Senate
muted.
said he can't
He was
pass it.
muted.
He will not be able to pass it. He does not have Republican votes. Why isn't he talking to his Republican friends?
Let me follow up with you, Vice President
we made a
Biden,
deal,
because
the Republicans
let me
will
ask
pass
Vice
it.
President Biden a question. You are the leader of the Democratic Party.
Box says,
Why
okay,
have
here
you
we go.
not
Time to
pushed the
pay for the black
Democrats to
vote.
get a deal for the
Yeah.
American people?
Oh, this is
Well,
a
I
real
have, and they
question,
have
not a
pushed it. Look,
softball.
they passed this act all the way back in the beginning of the summer. This is like it's not new. It's been out there. This HEROES Act has been sitting there. And look at what's happening.
Yes,
When I
that's
was
a
in
fact.
charge of the Recovery Act with $800 billion, I was able to get $145 billion to local communities that have to balance their budgets and states that have to balance their budgets, so they didn't have to fire firefighters, teachers, first responders, law enforcement officers, so they could keep their cities and counties running. He will not support that. They have not done a thing for them. And Mitch McConnell said, let them go bankrupt. Let them go bankrupt. Come on. What's the matter with
bill
these
that was
guys?
passed in
I
the
tend to
House
agree
was a
with that.
bailout
Yeah.
of badly run, high crime, Democrat, all run by Democrats, cities and states. It was a way of getting a lot of
And I'm
money,
not gonna put my
billions
family
and
business
billions
out there,
of
but I
dollars to
know
these kids.
these
It was
cities
also a
are
way of
being
getting a
poorly
lot of
run.
money from our
very
people's
close to me.
pockets
I'm gonna tell that story to
people
y'all
that come
one day.
into our country illegally. We were going to take care of everything for
Oh,
them.
here he
And
goes
what
with
that does,
immigration.
and I'd love to do that, I'd love to help them, but what that does, everybody all over the world will start pouring into our country. We can't do it. This was a way of taking
Barack
care
Obama.
of them.
No,
this
they
was a
won't.
way of
Yes, they will.
spending on
Barack
things that
Obama
had
deported
nothing
way
to do
more
with
people
COVID,
anyway,
as per
and
your
built more
question.
cages.
But it was really
Trump
a
has
big
beat up
bailout
his
for
beat his
badly
record
run
currently.
Democrat cities.
No, actually,
and
that's not
states.
true.
All right, I wanna-
MSNBC
I
just
get
put out a
elected.
report
I'm
on
running-
that.
I'm
They
running
actually,
as a
I'm gonna
proud
post it. I'm gonna
Democrat.
send
I'm
it
going to
to
be an
you.
American
Send it to me,
president.
'cause
I
I
don't see
thought
red
they were
states
like
and blue
1,000
states.
away.
What I
Oh,
see
no,
is
no.
American, United States.
Not at
And
all.
folks, every single state out there finds themselves in trouble. They're going to start laying off, whether they're red or blue.
I love
Cops,
how
firefighters,
he
first
talks directly to the
responders,
screen.
because
Trump
teachers,
talks
because
to
they
the girl,
have to balance their
or the
budget. And the
reporter, sorry.
founders were smart. They allowed the federal government to deficit spend to compensate for the United States of America.
I want to talk about the minimum wage, gentlemen. Mr. Vice President, we are talking a lot about struggling small businesses
All right, let me
and
get into some meat
business
and
owners
potatoes.
these days. Do you think this is the right time to ask them to raise the minimum wage? You, of course, support a $15 federal minimum
I
wage.
do, because I think one of the things we're going to have to do is we're going to have to bail them out, too. We should be bailing them out now. Those small
No,
businesses.
we don't need to bail
You got
out
1 in 6
anybody.
of them going
Yes, we
under.
do.
They're not going to be
Nope.
able to make it back.
Nope.
They passed a package that allows us to be able to call PPP. Money is supposed to go to help them do everything from organize how they can deal with their businesses being open safely. Schools, how they can make classrooms smaller, how they can hire more teachers, how they can put ventilation systems in. They need the help. The businesses as well as the schools need the help. But these guys will not help them. It's not giving them any of the money.
We are going to move on to
Excuse me,
immigration,
one thing very
but I
quickly,
want
he
to get
said we
your
have to help our
reaction.
small businesses by raising the minimum wage. That's not helping. I think it should be a state option.
Oh my
Alabama
God,
is
Trump!
different than
Trump
New
doesn't
York.
understand this.
New York is
Trump
different
does
from
not understand
Vermont.
this.
Every state is different. It should be a state option.
you said very
we have
recently-
to help. It's very important. We have to help our small businesses.
Just
How
can
are you helping
support
your small
bailing out the
businesses
small
when you're
businesses,
forcing wages?
especially when
What's going to happen and what's
Cake
been proven to
Factory
happen
or
is when
Cheesecake
you do
Factory
that,
out here
these small
stealing money?
businesses.
You can
Recently, you would
by the way.
consider raising the federal minimum
it.
wage to $15
Say
an
it.
hour. You said recently you would consider raising the federal minimum wage to $15
what I
an
really
hour. Is that
like,
still the case?
And I would consider it to
That's
an
a
extent.
lie.
But
In a
what I
second
really like,
administration?
in a second administration, but not to a level that's going to put all these businesses out of business. It should be a state option. Look, I've lived in different places. I know different places. They're all
He's
different. Some
such a-
places,
such a-
$15 is not so bad. In other places, other states, $15 would be
Okay, President
ruinous.
Trump, thank you. Quick response, Vice President Biden.
2 jobs, 1 job, be below poverty. People are making $6, $7, $8 an hour. These first responders, we all clap for as they come down the street because they've allowed us to make it. What's happening? They deserve a minimum wage of $15. Anything below that puts you below the poverty level. And there is no evidence that when you raise
No,
the
that's
minimum
not true.
wage, businesses go out of business. That is simply not
No,
true.
they,
We're
no,
going
no,
to
no,
talk about
no, 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 no. I'm
immigration.
saying
We're going
they
to talk
need
about
more money
immigration
than
now,
that.
gentlemen.
Poverty,
And we're
poverty
going
in
to talk
this
about
country
families
is
within this context.
yeah,
Mr.
the
President, your
poverty level
administration
can
separated
increase.
children
angry
from their
here. Let me
parents
calm
at the
the fuck
border,
down.
at least
Damn it, that's
4,000
seven.
kids. You've since reversed your zero tolerance policy, but the United States can't locate the parents of more than 500 children. So how will these families ever be reunited?
children are brought here by coyotes and lots of bad people, cartels, and they're brought here, and they used to use them to get into our country. We now have as strong a border as we've ever had. We're over 400 miles of brand new wall. You see the numbers, and we let people in, but they have to come in legally.
No, it's
and they
there,
come
but
in
it's
through
trash.
But how will you reunite these kids with their families?
It's only 5
They built
miles of new
cages.
wall.
You know, they used to say, I built the cages. And then they had a picture in a certain newspaper. And it was a picture of these horrible cages. And they said, look at these cages. President Trump built them. And then it was determined they were built in 2014.
Who cares about where the picture came
Do you
from?
have a
Who's
plan to
using them
reunite the
right
kids?
now?
Yes, we're working on it we're trying very hard. But a lot of these kids come out without the parents. They come over through cartels and through coyotes and through gangs.
Vice President Biden, let me bring you into this conversation. Quick response and then another question to
He's
you.
still on mute. The
500
mute
plus
button's
kids
great.
came with parents. They separated them at the border to make it a disincentive to come to begin with. Real tough. We're really strong. And guess what? They cannot, it's not coyotes didn't bring them over. Their parents were with them. They got separated from their parents. And it makes us a laughing stock and violates every notion of who we are as a nation.
Let me ask you a follow-up
Kristen,
question.
they did it. We changed the policy.
Your response
they
to that?
They did it. We changed.
Did not
They built the
separate
cages.
They,
who built the cages, Joe?
Let's
That is
talk
not a
about
lie.
Who built the
That's a
cages,
fact.
Let's
Joe?
talk about
They
what we're
only
talking about.
separated
What
kids
happened?
when parents were
Parents were
incapacitated
ripped,
or
their kids were
unable
ripped
to
from
handle
their
the child.
arms and
There was
separated.
Clearly,
And now
less
they
than
cannot
14
find over
less than 1,400 in 12
sets
years.
of those parents, and those kids
Look
are
it up, Eric.
alone.
Okay, let's do it.
Nowhere to go. Nowhere to go. It's criminal. It's criminal.
Let me ask
Kristen,
you
I will
about
say this.
immigration.
They went
10
down.
seconds,
We
and
brought
then I need to ask
reporters,
you a question.
everything. They are so well taken care of. They're in facilities that were so clean.
14
Some of
kids
them
have
haven't
died
been
under
reunited
your
But
with their
just
care.
ask
families.
one question. Who built the cages? I'd love you to ask him that. Who built the cages?
Let me ask about your immigration policy, Mr. Vice President. The Obama administration did fail to deliver immigration reform, which had been a key promise during the administration. It also presided over record deportations as well as family detentions at the border before changing course. So why should voters trust you with an immigration overhaul now?
Because we made a mistake. It took too long to get it right. It took too
See how
long to get it
easy that
right.
is? We
I'll be
made a
president of the
mistake.
United States, not vice president of the United States. And the
Oh,
fact
so you
is,
throwing
I've
your
made
boy
it very
under the
clear.
bus.
He did a
Within
little bit
100
right
days,
there.
I'm
He
going to
did.
send to the United States Congress
So
a
that means
pathway
you
to
were either privy
citizenship
to it
for
and did
over
nothing,
11
or
million undocumented people.
President
And
as the
all of
chair.
those so-called dreamers,
Follow your
those
boss.
DACA kids, they're going to be immediately certified again to be able to stay in this country and put on a path to citizenship. The idea that they are being sent home by this guy, and they want to do that, is they've gone to a country they've never seen before. I can imagine you're 5 years old, your parents are taking you across the Rio Grande River, and it's illegal. And you say, oh, no, Mom, leave me here. I'm not going to go with you. They've been here. Many of them are model citizens. Over 20,000 of them are first responders out there taking care of people during this crisis. We owe them. We owe them.
President
Kristen,
Trump,
he
your
had
reaction.
8 years to do what he said he was going to do. And I've
We
changed
did.
without having a specific. We got rid of catch and release. We got rid of a lot of horrible things that they put in and that they lived with. But he had 8 years he was vice president. He did nothing except build cages to keep children in.
Vice President
Wrong.
Biden, your response.
The catch and release, you know what he's talking about there? If in fact you had a family came across and they were arrested, they in fact were given a date to show up for their hearing. They were released. And guess what? They showed up for a hearing. And this is the first president in the history of the United States of
That's not
America
true.
that's
Some of
anybody
them didn't show
seeking
up.
asylum has to do it in another country. That's never happened before in America. That's never happened before in America. You come to the United States and you make your case that I seek asylum based on the following premise, why I deserve it under American law. They're sitting in squalor on the other side of the river.
If anything, this mute button is helping Trump. That's kind of crazy.
Yes, it is.
Of the laws. Catch and release is a disaster. A murderer would come in, a rapist would come in, a very bad
That's a
person would come
lie.
in. We would take
Why would a
their
murderer
name.
travel
We have
to
to release
America?
them into
Like, it's
our
such a
country.
lie.
and then you say they come back.
Like,
Less than
why would
1% of the
someone
about the
people
question
criminal-
come back. We have to send
about the
ICE
question you
out
just asked.
and Border Patrol out to find them. We would say,
Hold
come
on.
back in 2 years, 3 years. We're going to give
My thing is, he's saying as if someone got raped in Mexico or killed someone in Mexico and then tried to come here for safe haven. Like, you know, we're going to run an extensive background check on you. That is a lie. Now, if he's saying like they committed crimes here in America, then
No,
they're
he's saying
then,
criminals are coming over the border.
yeah, so that's a lie. Like, why would someone do that's not logical. You have a better chance of escaping the police in Mexico than in America.
Yeah.
Because you're
I
gonna
know.
have your whole life read in front of you.
So, yeah, just reading some comments. Brock said, "How about we eliminate the minimum wage altogether?" I am with that 100%.
The reason that doesn't work, Brock, is because then people will be getting paid pennies.
No,
You don't think the corporations right now who are stealing PPE funding wouldn't have a problem paying you a penny?
it make. We'll talk about it after the thing. That's a little bit deeper of a conversation, but we definitely need to talk about the.
Are we going
minimum wage.
back?
I'm just reading a couple more comments.
Go.
These families.
Trump
Do you
is
understand?
making good points. Mute button is really helping them. Sad to say it. That's what Jesse says. Trump is kind of sweeping the leg. Let's see if Biden can a macho man can go macho on him. Jesse says they both use cages.
They should stop pointing at each other like they did it. Yeah. Crane kick needed.
Learn more about what was going on.
Exactly.
What
Sucking
I
legs
never
doesn't
had
mean
to
you
tell
don't
my
still
daughter
suck.
if she's pulled over, make sure she puts for a traffic stop, put both hands on top of the wheel and
Oh,
don't
get
reach for the
off
glove box
the boo-boo.
because someone may shoot you.
Talking about black
But
people.
a black parent,
I know,
no
get
matter
off the
how
people.
wealthy or how poor they are, has to teach their child when you're walking down the street, don't have a hoodie on when you go across the street. Making sure that
that's
you,
a
in fact,
stretch, B.
if you get
No,
pulled
it's
over,
not. Black people
yes,
are literally
yes,
being
sir,
shot
no,
for
sir.
that.
Hands on top of the wheel, because you are, in fact, the victim, whether you're a person making child of a $300,000 a year person or someone who's on food stamps. The fact of the matter is there is institutional racism in America. And we have always said, we've never lived up to it, that we hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women are created equal. But guess what? We
Eric's trying to find
have
a way to
never,
prove-
ever
disprove.
lived up to it. But
Oh, no, I'm
we've
typing
always
in the chat.
constantly been moving the needle further and further to inclusion, not exclusion. This is the first president to come along and says, that's the end of that. We're not going to do that anymore.
That's a lie.
We have to provide for economic opportunity,
yeah,
better
that's true.
education, better health care, better access to schooling, better access to opportunity to borrow money to start businesses. All the things we can do, and I've
sounds
laid
like
out
what
a
Ice
clear
Cube was
plan
talking about.
as to how to do
Yeah,
those
the
things.
same bills that
Just
are
to
being
give
held
people
at
a
Mitch
shot.
McConnell's
It's about
desk.
accumulating the ability to have wealth as well as it is to be free from violence.
President Trump, same question to you, and let me remind you of the question. I would like you to speak directly to these families. Do you understand why these parents fear for their children?
Yes, I do. And again, he's been in government 47 years. He never did a thing except in 1994 when he did such harm to the black community.
It's the
And they were
84.
called, and he called
No,
them super
it's
predators.
84,
and he
86,
said that. He said
88,
it, super
and
predators.
94.
And they have never lived that down.
No, that's Hillary said
1994,
super predator.
your
It's
crime
okay,
bill,
people
the
forget.
super predators.
No,
Nobody
fuck
has
that.
done more for the black community than Donald Trump. And if you look,
That's a lie.
with the exception
As a president?
of Abraham Lincoln, possible
lie.
exception, but the exception of Abraham Lincoln, nobody has
Possible
done
exception.
what I've done. Criminal justice reform, Obama and Joe didn't do it.
Obama
I don't
started
even
that.
think they
That's a
tried
lie.
because they had
Oh,
no
he's so
chance at
bad
doing
at
it.
this.
They might have wanted to do it, but if you had to see the arms I had to twist
And
to
then
get
he
that
says
done,
it.
was
It's
not
so
a pretty
bad.
picture. And everybody knows it, including some very liberal people that cried in my office. They cried in the Oval Office. 2 weeks later, they're out saying, gee, we have to defeat him. Criminal justice reform, prison reform, opportunity zones with Tim Scott, a great senator from South Carolina. He came in with this incredible idea for opportunity zones. It's one of the most successful programs. People don't talk about it. Tremendous investment
Of course,
is being
'cause
made.
it's a
Biggest
victory for you if they
beneficiary,
talk
the
about it.
black and Hispanic
takes away
communities.
from the narrative.
And then historically
Exactly.
black colleges and universities. After 3
which
years
was
of
going to
coming
be
to the
funded
office, I
anyway,
love some of
is
those guys. They were
funded
great.
every
They
year.
came into the office.
Yes, but
And they said,
again,
I said, what do
they
you
have to
do?
go
After 3
year
years,
over
I
year,
said,
and
why
he
do you
said,
keep
"No, I'm
coming
going to give you
back?
10 years of
Because
You know
funding."
we have
why
no
it's
funding.
important
I
for him
said,
to
you
go
don't have
year
to come
over
back
year?
every year. We have
Because
to come back.
inflation.
Because President Obama
Exactly,
would
but he
never
said, "No, I'm
give
gonna
them
give you more money
long-term
than you
funding.
asked for."
And I
These are his
did.
words.
We didn't see the
10-year
details of the
long-term
contract, so I
funding,
can't
and I gave them
verify
more
that.
money
Again,
than
but
they
we're
asked for because
okay,
they said,
we're
I
going on
think you
people's
need
words.
more.
We're going.
And I said, the
I'm
only
not going
bad
on
part
this
about
guy's
this
word.
is I may
Yeah,
never
you'll
see
go on
you
other
again
people's
because
words.
I got very
Okay.
friendly with them, and they like me and I like them. But I saved it.
I haven't heard any HBCU
Colleges
people
and
who went to
universities.
go
Okay,
asking for
and we're
money
going to talk
come out
about
and say
both
that
of
that's a
your
lie.
records, but
And
your
you're an
response to
HBCU
that,
grad,
Vice
so if
My
you
President.
can go
response to
find it
that
and
is
post it,
I
that'd be
never,
great.
ever
got
said
you.
what he accused me of saying. The fact of the matter is, in 2000, though, after the crime bill had been in the law for a while, this is
The
a guy
toss
who
is they need
said
to fix it.
the
Don't know
problem
the
with the
answers
crime
though.
bill,
I'm not
there's
sure
not
these
enough
guys
people
do
in
either.
jail.
They would have gave a
There's
better
not
answer
enough
there
people in
rather
jail.
than
And
those
go on my
two.
Can we
website,
mute
get the
this real
quote.
quick because we know in two respect of our predominantly white audience right now, two white old guys do not have the answers for black people. Period. The fact that they think they do is an insult to us and our struggles and the
So,
plight of
so
us.
is that racist?
No, because from a genuine aspect, I believe white people should be able to have a conversation about race relations in this country. I think they
Okay,
need to have a
100%.
conversation in order to progress us forward. Because I can't, when your uncle says something racist in confidence in front of you, you confronting him is the only way things will change. I'll never know about your uncle not liking me coming to Thanksgiving that year, but you will. And what you choose to do with that information is going to dictate how things work. But with that being said, I don't know if, let me get off my fucking soapbox and I got to add another one.
No one should be going to jail because they have a drug problem. They should be going to rehabilitation, not to jail.
Oh yeah, because now we have an
Fundamentally
opioid problem.
change the
Now that
system,
we should
and
do
that's
that.
what I'm
When there was
gonna
no
do.
opioid
But
problem,
why
you wasn't
didn't
saying
they do
there
it
was
4
no.
years
Eric.
ago? Why didn't you do that 4 years ago? Even less than that. Why didn't you
I
do it?
am
You were
not-
vice president. You keep talking about all these things you're going to do, and you're going to do this.
I know,
but
I'm
you were
adding
there
it.
just
Damn,
a
bro.
short time ago, and you guys did nothing.
We
You know,
did.
Joe, I ran because of you. I ran because of Barack Obama.
Ooh.
Because you did
That's
a
a
poor
jab.
job. If I
That
thought you
is.
did a good job,
That's a
I
good
would have
one,
never
too.
run. I would have never run. I ran because of you. I'm looking at you now. You're a politician. I ran because of you.
All right, Vice President Biden, your response to that, and then I do have some questions for both of you.
Well, I tell you what, I hope he does look at me, because what's happening here is, you know who I am, you know who he is, you know his character, you know my character.
Yeah.
You know our
And
reputations
you were
for honor
mentored
and
by
telling
a
the
known
truth.
Klan recruiter.
I am anxious to have
And
this
you said you
race.
loved him
I'm
dearly, and he
anxious
was a
to see
great
this
friend and
take
mentor.
place. I am
So,
character
anybody
of
who's
the country
mentored
is
by
on
the
the
Klan,
ballot.
I'm not
Our
trusting that guy.
character's on the ballot.
Yeah,
Look at us
so
closely.
when
Let me
David
ask some
Duke
follow-up.
endorsed
Please
Trump,
respond,
If
and then we're
this
going to have
stuff
follow-up.
is
That's
true
different.
about
When
Russia,
this guy
Ukraine,
says, "That's
China,
my dear
other
friend and
countries
Trump
are
accepted that
If
endorsement.
this is true, then he's a
And then
corrupt
later came back and
politician.
said he didn't
So
know
don't
David
give
Duke was
me
in
the
the
stuff
Klan.
about how you're this innocent baby.
But he didn't denounce him.
They're calling you a
simple.
corrupt politician.
Nobody's
Take a look
calling
at
President
the
me.
Trump, I
laptop
want to
from
stay
hell.
on the
I think
issue
all
of
drugs
race.
should be
We're
legal.
talking
Look at the
about the issue.
laptop from hell.
Decriminalize.
President Trump, we're
Nobody-
talking about
you-
race right now, and I do want to stay on the issue of race. President Trump,
And I
you've
have to
just
respond to that.
Please,
Because look,
very
there
quickly.
are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plant. They have said that this has all the
So
five
identifiers,
former
y'all
heads of the
saying drugs should be
CIA,
legal or
both parties
decriminalized?
say what
All
he's
drugs
saying
should be
is a bunch
legal.
of garbage.
Heroin, crack,
Nobody
cocaine,
believes
booger
it except
sugar,
his
double
and his
dandruff,
good
all
friend
of it.
Rudy Giuliani.
You mean the laptop is now another Russia hoax?
And
You
that's
gotta be-
exactly what-
Is this
that's
where you're
exactly
going?
what
This
was
is
told.
where he's going. The
All right.
laptop is Russia,
Yes.
Gentlemen,
Russia.
I want to
said
stay
it
on the
is not
issue of race.
Russia.
You
okay?
have to be kidding. Here we
Mr.
go
President?
again with Russia.
We're going to continue
Boy, oh
on the
boy.
issue of race. Mr. President,
believe
you've
that one.
described the Black Lives Matter movement as a symbol of hate. You've shared a video of a man chanting white power to millions of your supporters. You've said that black professional athletes exercising
gonna
their
fuck
First
up.
Amendment
Watch.
rights should be fired. What do you say to Americans who say that kind of language from a president is contributing to a climate of hate and racial strife?
Well, you have to understand, the first time I ever heard of Black Lives Matter, they were chanting pigs in a blanket, talking about police. Pigs, talking about our police. Pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. I said, that's a horrible thing. And they were marching down the street. And that was my first glimpse of Black Lives Matter. I thought it was a terrible thing. As far as my relationships with all people, I think I have great relationships with all people. I am the least racist person in this room.
Well, what do you say to Americans who are concerned by that rhetoric?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know
videos?
what to say. I got criminal justice reform done and prison reform and opportunity zones. I took care of black colleges and universities. I don't know what to say. They can say anything. I mean, they can say anything. It makes me sad because I am the least racist person. I can't even see the audience because it's so dark. But I don't care who's in the audience. I'm the least racist person in this room.
Okay, Vice President Biden, let me ask you very quickly, and then I have a follow-up question for you.
Abraham Lincoln here is one of the most racist presidents we've had in modern history. He pours fuel on every single racist fire. Every single one. Started off his campaign coming down the escalator saying he's going to get rid of those Mexican rapists. He's banned Muslims because they're Muslims. He has moved around and made everything worse across the board. He says about the poor boys. Last time we were on stage here, he said, I told them to stand down and stand ready. Come on. This guy is a dog whistle about as big as a foghorn.
President Trump, I'm going to give you 10 seconds to respond, and then I have a follow-up.
You made a reference to Abraham Lincoln. Where did that come in? I mean,
you said you're Abraham Lincoln.
No, where did that? No.
You said,
I said not since Abraham Lincoln has anybody done what I've done for the black community.
And I'm saying,
I didn't say I'm Abraham Lincoln. I said not since Abraham Lincoln.
He knew what he was
has
saying.
anybody done what I've done for the black community. Now, you have done nothing other than the crime bill, which
he
put
took it seriously.
oh, God.
tens of thousands of black men, mostly in jail.
All right, let me
And you know what?
let me
They
ask
remember
Vice
it
President
because if you
Biden
look
a
at what's
question.
happening with the voting right now,
Let me ask
they
Vice
remember
President
that
Biden
you treated them very badly. Just take a look at what's happening out there.
Vice President Biden, let me give you a
remember,
chance to
that
respond
bill
within
had
this context.
bipartisan-
Crime bills that you supported in the 80s and 90s contributed to the incarceration of tens of thousands of young black men who had small amounts of drugs in their possession. They are sons, they are brothers, they're fathers, they're uncles, whose families are still to this day, some of them suffering the consequences. So speak to those families. Why should they vote for you?
One of the things is that in the 80s, we passed 100%, all 100 senators voted for it, a bill on drugs and how to deal with drugs. It was a mistake.
My Lord and
I've been
Savior,
trying to
Bernie
change the
Sanders
sense, and
voted for it.
particularly the portion on cocaine. That's why I've been arguing that, in fact, we should not send anyone to jail for a pure drug offense. They should be going into treatment across the board. That's what we should be spending money on. That's why I set up drug courts, which were never funded by Republican friends. They should not be going to jail.
No, he did not admit he was wrong.
An alcohol problem. They should be going into treatment. That's what we've been trying to do. That's what I'm going to get done because I think the American people have now seen.
In the 80s,
it was a different time.
It was
a different time.
So he gets a pass because it was quote unquote a different time. No,
Yes.
no.
If you acknowledge your problems, if you acknowledge your problem and you're trying to make it better, you get to and you succeed in that. Let me add that. If you succeed in bringing about change, you can be forgiven of your sins.
8 years to get it done. Now you're saying you're going to get it done.
No? Okay.
You're all talk and no action.
We got a
Your
lot of it
response.
done. We released
didn't get
38,000. We
anything
got
done.
38,000 prisoners left from the.
You got nothing done.
38,000 prisoners were released from federal prison. There were over 1,000 people who were given clemency. In fact, we're the ones that put in the legislation saying we could look at pattern and practice of police departments and what they were doing, how they were conducting themselves. I could go on, but we began the process.
No, admitting fault is not hard.
We lost an election. That's why I'm running to win back that election and change his terrible policy.
I
With
just
Wisconsin, then we're
asked,
gonna move on
one
to climate
question.
change.
Why didn't you do it in the 8 years, a short time ago? Why didn't you do it? You just said, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. You put tens of thousands of mostly black young men in prison. Now you're saying you're going to undo that. Why didn't you get it done? You had 8 years with Obama. You know why, Joe? Because you're all talk and no action.
All right, Vice President Biden, and then we're going to move on to the next section.
We had a Republican Congress.
Oh, shit, blame shift.
That's the answer.
Well,
Okay.
You got to talk them into it, Joe.
All
Sometimes
right.
you got to talk them into it.
We're going to move on to our next section.
Like I did
which
with
is
criminal
climate
justice
change.
reform. I had
Okay.
to talk Democrats into it.
Gentlemen,
You did
we're,
what we
we're running out of
already done.
time, so we got to get on to
Okay.
climate change, please. You both have very different visions
Looking at
on
his watch.
climate change. President Trump, you say that environmental regulations have
climate
hurt
change.
jobs in the energy sector.
doesn't believe in
Vice
climate
President
change.
Biden, you
Eric's a
have said you see
skeptic.
addressing climate change as an opportunity to
Definitely a
create new
skeptic.
jobs. For each of you, how would you both combat climate change and support job
has
growth at
a
the same
simple
time?
fix.
Starting with you, President Trump, you have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
So we have the Trillion Trees program. We have so many different programs. I do
Trillion
love the
Trees
environment,
program.
but what I want is the
That's
cleanest,
how,
crystal
you sound like
clear
a
water,
weed
the
smoker. We got the
cleanest
Trillion
air.
Trees
We have the
program.
best, lowest number in carbon emissions, which is a big standard that I notice Obama goes with all the time. Not Joe. I haven't
I'm
heard
gonna
Joe
say
use the
lie
term
detector
because I'm not
test
sure he knows what it
determined that's a
represents or
lie.
means, but I have heard Obama use it. And
Yeah,
we
the
have
lowest carbon
the
emissions
best
for people been at the
carbon
crib.
emission
That's
numbers
four
that we've had in
for Obama.
35 years under this administration. We are working so well with industry, but here's what we
he
can't
got that
do.
from the
Look
Obama
at China,
administration.
how filthy it is.
China.
Look at Russia. Look at India.
Yeah,
It's
that's right, Bragg. That's a
filthy.
dispensary program,
The air
man.
is
Trillion
filthy.
Trees program.
The Paris Accord, I took us out because we were going to have to spend trillions of dollars, and we were treated very
That's a
unfairly.
lie.
When they put
Nobody
us in
likes
there, they
France
did us a
anyway.
great disservice. They were going to take away our businesses. I will not sacrifice
lie.
tens of millions of jobs, thousands and thousands of companies because of the Paris Accord. It was so unfair.
Biden only
China
has
doesn't
one
kick
line on
in
his board.
until
Hold on, bro.
2030.
Now that's a
Russia
lie.
goes back to a
Chopping
low
his ass.
standard, and we
Listen,
kicked
he
in
should
right
probably have
away.
just as
It
many
would have
as
been.
your
It would
boy.
have been. It would have
No
destroyed
way.
our businesses.
Okay.
I'll
You
give
ready?
him 10.
We have done
All right.
an incredible
Can you
job.
confirm an environmental
environmentally.
regulation is super
We have the
tight
cleanest
currently
air,
from
the
a
cleanest
manufacturing
water, and the
standpoint, some
best
more than
carbon
pre-Trump.
emission standards that we've seen in many,
They
many
took our
years.
jobs.
Vice President
We
Biden.
haven't
says
destroyed
Jesse.
our industries.
Vice President Biden, 2 minutes to you, uninterrupted.
Climate change, climate warming,
And by they, who
global
you mean,
warming is the
Jesse?
next
They
essential
took
threat
our
to humanity.
jobs.
We have a moral obligation to deal with it. And
Moral
we're told by all the
obligation.
leading scientists in the world we don't have much time. We're going to pass the point of no return within the next 8 to 10
Right.
years. 4 more years
The
of this
world's gonna
man
burn up. The
eliminating
world gonna
all
be
the
shriveled up old
regulations that were
prunes.
put in by us to clean up the climate, to clean up, to limit the limit of emissions will put us in a position where we're going to be in
Limit of
real
emissions.
trouble. Here's where we have a great opportunity.
call him Vice
I was
President
able to
Mumbles
get
here in a
both
second.
all the environmental organizations
He has a
as well as
disability,
labor,
don't make fun of him.
people worried about jobs,
No, he
to
doesn't have a
support
disability.
my climate plan. Because what it does,
Qatar
it will
made
create
policy.
millions of new
Or
good-paying
law,
jobs.
policy or law.
We're going to invest in, for example, 50,000
Yes.
charging stations on our highways so that we can own the electric car market of the future. In the meantime,
get you
China is
to
doing
use the
it.
South Park
We're going to be in a
voice. You got
position
me.
where
You
we're
know I'm
going
a
to
South
see
Park
to
fan.
it that we're going to take 4 million existing buildings and 2 million existing homes and retrofit them so they don't leak as much energy, saving hundreds of millions of barrels of oil in the process and creating significant number of jobs. And by the way, the whole idea of what this is all going to do, it's going to create millions of jobs, and it's going to clean the environment. Our health and our jobs are at stake. That's what's happening. And what right now, by the way, Wall Street firms indicated that my plan will in fact create 18.6 million jobs, 7 million more than his. This is from Wall Street. And I'll create
Yeah,
$1
'cause
trillion
that's where you get all
more
your
in
money
economic
from.
growth than his
Oh,
proposal
stop it,
does.
Eric.
Not on climate,
stop
just on
telling
the
the truth.
economy.
President Trump, you're
Yeah,
They
that's
came
for a
out
fact.
and said very strongly, $6,500 will be taken away from families under his plan, that his plan is an economic disaster. If you look at what he wants to do, if you look at his plan,
Nothing
his
to do with
environmental
climate.
plan, you know who developed it? AOC +3. They know nothing
Oh,
about the climate.
God. What is
I
wrong
mean,
with
she's got a
him?
good line of stuff, but she knows nothing about the climate, and they're all hopping through hoops for AOC +3. Look,
I like how he's
their real plan
not even
costs
acknowledging the
so
other
much.
three. I like
So
it. It's
annoying.
if we
kind
had
of
the best year
cute
in the
though. You
history
got to
of our
admit it was pretty
country
cute.
for 100 years, we would not even come close to a number like that. When he says buildings,
what kind
they
of
want to
fa-
take buildings down because they want to make bigger windows into smaller windows. as far as they're concerned, if you had
Biden
no
is always
window,
all
it would be a
smiles, bro.
lovely thing. This is the craziest plan that anybody has ever seen.
Because
And
he
this
knows
wasn't done
Trump
by
is crazy.
smart people.
And so is
This
he.
wasn't done by anybody. Frankly,
After this,
I
they're
don't
probably-
know how it
3
could be
+
good
3.
All right.
politically. They
After
want to
this, they're probably
spend
gonna go have a
$100
glass of,
trillion
whiskey
dollars.
and
That's their
smoke a
real
cigar
number.
and
He's trying to
laugh.
say it was 6. It's $100
Another
trillion
F-bomb, bro.
They want to knock down buildings and build new buildings with little, tiny, small windows. I mean, and many other things.
Okay.
And many other things.
Let me have the Vice President
It
respond,
is
and we're running out of
crazy.
time, and we have a lot
And
more
you'll
questions to
destroy
get
our
to.
country.
So let's hear from the Vice President. I have a number more questions.
I don't know where he comes from. I don't know where he comes up with these numbers.
Queens.
$100 trillion. Give me a break. This plan was, endorsed by every major environmental group and every labor group. Labor.
Okay,
Because
well,
they
show
know
some
the
receipts,
future
Joe.
lies.
And I'm gonna ask you to do the
Future
same,
lies
Trump. We
must
need
be able to
receipts.
breathe.
Qatar
And
just
they know
said
there are
that
good
his
jobs
company
in
is
getting us
following
there.
the same
And by the way,
protocol
the fastest
by
growing
law.
industry in America is the electric,
I don't know what the
solar
fine
energy
details,
and wind.
I
He
just
thinks
know whatever
wind
is in
causes
place
cancer,
now
windmills.
is
It's the
working to get
fastest
factories to
growing
comply
jobs,
better than what
and they
it
pay
was in the
good
last
prevailing
administration, is
wages,
what Qatar said.
45, 50 bucks an
Yeah,
hour.
Trump's doing
we
better
can grow
than
and
the
we
previous
can be
administration.
cleaner.
That's what
if
And
we
I'm trying to
go
figure
the
out,
route I'm
and that's what I'm
proposing.
trying to figure out.
President
Is
Trump,
it because
please
we are
respond, and then I
energy-
have to
still
we are
follow.
following
energy
the original
independent
agreement,
for the
or is it
first
because of
time.
laws?
We don't need all of these countries that we had to fight war over because we needed their energy.
Just like how we
are
have higher
energy
standards than the
independent. I
law
know more
for
about wind
UNOS
than
and all
you
that
do.
other shit.
It's extremely expensive, kills all the birds. It's very intermittent. Got a lot
That's
of
a lie.
problems, and they happen to make
Such
the
a
windows
lie.
in both
Now I
Germany and
can
China.
laugh with Joe on
And the
that.
fumes coming up, if
Yo,
you're a believer in
China.
carbon emission, the fumes coming
I'm
up
just
to
tired of that.
make these massive windmills is more than anything that we're talking
Is he
about with
playing patty
natural
cake? Like,
gas,
what's
which
he
is very
doing?
clean. One other thing.
Find me a
Solar.
scientist that says
I
that.
love solar, but solar doesn't quite have it yet. It's not powerful yet to really
true. Now,
run
that
our
is
big,
actually a fact.
beautiful
But that's
factories
why
that
you
we
have
need to compete
alternators,
with the
because they
world.
generate more
So
power.
False.
Now
It's
we need
all
to
a
go to
pipe
water.
dream. But you know
need
what
to
we'll
go to
do?
water.
We're going to have the greatest economy in the world. But if you want to kill
Birds
the
aren't
economy,
real. You're absolutely
get
right,
rid
Jess.
of your oil
Figment of
industry.
your imagination. Have you ever held a bird in
and
your
what
hand?
about
Never.
fracking?
All right,
Now we have to ask
let
him
me
about
allow
fracking.
Vice President
I
Biden to
have
respond.
never said I oppose fracking.
You said it on tape.
I did. Show the tape. Put it on your
You can't go
website.
nuclear,
Put it on.
Put it on the website. The fact of the matter is,
Showed
he's
it last
flat
year.
lying.
Would you
Flat-
rule out banning fracking?
I do rule out banning fracking because the answer we
Yes,
need.
have you seen what happened to
we need
Oklahoma and Florida?
Other
He says he
industries
rules out
to transition
banning
to
fracking.
get to ultimately a complete zero
He's not saying
emissions
he's
by
going to ban
2025.
fracking.
I think
What
he
I
might
will
have
do
meant
with
banning
fracking over
fracking 'cause
time
it's
No,
on
no,
his
no,
is
no,
head.
no.
make sure that we can capture
I think he
the
meant it,
emissions
because
But he
it's
from
on
said
his
on
fracking,
at least
capture
3
the emissions
occasions
from gas.
that he's
we
not
can
going
do
to ban
that,
fracking.
and we can do
You
that
can't
by
ban it
investing money
outright.
in doing
Over
it. It's a
time, sure.
transition
But
to
he never said he was
I have
going to
one
do
more
that.
question in this pod, and then we
I think
we
that's
have.
He was
what
against
we're going to
fracking.
be
He
forcing
said
him
it.
to do.
I will show that to you tomorrow.
we're not gonna
I
force him to do
am
anything.
against fracking. Until he got the nomination, went to Pennsylvania, then he said, but you know what,
Qatar and
Pennsylvania,
Jesse
he'll
are
be
both
against
for
it very
nuclear.
soon
It's
because his
cleaner, more
party
efficient.
is totally against it.
fracking
Bill,
on
here's how you
federal
deal
land.
with
I
the
said
nuclear
no
waste.
fracking
Nuclear
and
waste
no
will
oil on
deteriorate
federal
Let
land.
me
anything
ask
and
this
everything
final
if it's not
question
put
in this
into a
section,
like,
and then I
what
want
do
to
you
move
do
on
with
to
the
our
waste? The waste
final
is too
section.
damaging.
President Trump, people of color are much more
Chernobyl,
likely to live near oil refineries and chemical
Japan.
plants. In Texas, there are
Where's the other
families who
place?
worry the plants near them are making them sick. Your administration has rolled back
They are.
regulations on these kinds of facilities. Why should these families give you another
Yes.
4 years in office?
The families that we're talking about are
Jesse says we
employed
can
heavily,
run on
and they're
nuclear
making
waste
a lot
now.
of money, more money than they've ever made. If you
Oh,
look
wow, I
at the
gotta see
kind
that.
of
Just
Can you
numbers
drop
that
a
are
link,
produced
bro?
for Hispanic,
Drop a
for
link.
Black, for Asian, it's 9 times greater the percentage gain than it was under in 3 years
Nuclear
than it
is
was
an
under
answer.
8
He's
years
talking about people dying.
of the
Why are you talking about
2 of
money?
them, to put it nicely. 9 times more. Now, somebody
says
lives,
nuclear
I
has
have
innovated in
not
the
heard
last 50
numbers or the
years. We haven't been using it.
statistics that you're saying, but they're making a tremendous
you can
amount
find
of
us a
money
link, bro, and drop it.
economically.
True.
We saved it, and I saved it again a number of months ago when oil was crashing because of the pandemic.
Okay.
We saved it. We got, say what you want about relationship, we got Saudi Arabia, Mexico, and Russia to cut back, way back. We saved our oil industry, and now it's very vibrant again.
All
And
right.
everybody has very inexpensive gasoline. Remember
Vice
that.
President Biden, your response, and then
Yeah,
we're going
'cause
to
no
have a
one's
final
driving anywhere.
question
That's
for
a
both
lie.
of you.
My response is is that those people live on what they call fence lines. He doesn't understand this. They live near chemical plants that, in fact, pollute, chemical plants and oil plants and refineries that pollute. I used to live near that when I was growing up in Claymont, Delaware. And all the more oil refineries in Marcus Hook and the Delaware River than there is any place, including in Houston at the time. When my mom get in the car when there was first frost to drive me to school, turn in the windshield wiper, there'd be oil slick in the window. That's why so many people in my state were dying and getting cancer. The fact is, those frontline communities, it doesn't matter what you're paying them, it matters how you keep them safe. What do you do? And you impose restrictions on the pollutions the pollutants coming out of those fence lines.
Guitar says, I imagine I had changed since Joe was growing up.
I have one final question.
Would he close down the oil industry?
It falls.
Would you close down the
falls.
oil
By
industry?
the way, I would transition from the oil industry, yes.
Oh,
I will
that's
transition.
a big statement.
It is a big statement
That's a
because
big statement.
I would stop
Why would you do that?
because the oil industry pollutes
Trump thinks
significantly.
oil is good.
I see.
Here's the deal, but
That's
you
a
can't
big
do that.
statement.
We need
Well, if you let me
innovation.
finish the statement, because it has to be replaced by renewable energy over time, and I'd stop giving to the oil industry. I'd stop giving
I
them federal
blocked it.
subsidies. He won't
Sorry.
give federal subsidies
I,
to
blocked
the
people from
gas,
dropping it.
excuse me, to the
Send it to
solar
Eric.
and wind.
Yeah.
Why are we giving it to oil industry?
We actually do
All
give
right.
it to solar and wind.
We
And
have
that's
one
maybe the
final
biggest
question.
statement in terms of business. That's the biggest statement.
Okay.
Because
We have
basically
one
what he's
final
saying
question.
is he is going to
President.
destroy the oil industry. Will you remember that, Texas? Will you
Okay.
remember that, Pennsylvania, Oklahoma?
Vice President Biden, let me give you 10 seconds to respond,
he's
and then I
talking
have
to
to get to the
states.
final question. Vice
Mute.
President Biden.
He takes everything
All
out
right,
of
bro, I got
context,
you.
but the
Appreciate it.
point
I'm
is,
finna drop
look,
it in the box.
We have to move toward a net zero emissions. The first place to do that by the year 2035 is in energy production, by 2050 totally.
All right. One
Is he gonna
final
get
question
China to
both
do
of you.
it?
No, we're finished with
Is
this.
he
We have
going to
to
get
move
China
on
to
to our
do it?
final question. We have to
I'm
move
going
on
to
to our final
rejoin Paris
question.
Accord and make China abide by what they agreed to.
All
That'll
right, this
cost you
is
$1
about
trillion.
leadership, gentlemen. And this first question does go to you,
drop that
President
link in
Trump.
there.
Imagine this is your
Looks promising,
inauguration
Jesse.
day. What will you say in your address to Americans who did not vote for you? You'll each have 1 minute, starting with you, Mr.
We have to make a country totally successful as it was prior to the plague coming in from China. Now we're rebuilding it, and we're
China.
doing record numbers, 11.4 million jobs in a short period of time, et cetera. But I will tell you, go back. Before the plague came in, just before, I was getting calls from people that were not normally people that would call me. They wanted to get together. We had the best black unemployment numbers in the history of our country. Hispanic,
That's some
women,
misinformation. That was a
Asian,
handoff.
people
Numbers are
with
always gonna
diplomas,
get
with
better.
no diplomas, MIT graduates, #1 in the class. Everybody had the best numbers. And you know what? The other side wanted to get together. They wanted to unify. Success is going to bring us together. We are on the road to success. But I'm cutting taxes, and he wants to raise everybody's taxes, and he wants to put new regulations on everything. He will kill it. If he gets in, you will have a depression, the likes of which you've never seen. Your 401ks
in a
will
depression
go to
right
hell,
now.
and it'll be a very, very sad day for this country.
All right. Vice President Biden, same question
Did he
to
say
you.
go to
What
hell?
will you say during your inaugural
said it'll go
address
to
to
hell.
Americans who did not vote for you?
I will say, I'm an American president. I represent all of you, whether you voted for me or against me. And I'm going to make sure that you're represented. I'm going to give you hope. We're going to move. We're going to choose science over fiction. We're going to choose hope over fear.
Leadership.
We're going to choose to move forward because we have enormous
Words.
opportunities, enormous
Just
opportunities to make things better. We can grow this economy. We can deal with the systemic racism. And at the same time, we can make sure that our economy is being run and moved and motivated by clean
YouTube
energy,
just changed this
creating
font, and I don't
millions
like
of
it.
new jobs. And that's the fact. That's what we're going to do. And I'm going to say, as I said at the beginning, what is on the ballot here is the character of this country.
Yeah.
Decency,
Good closing
honor,
argument.
respect, treating people with dignity, making sure that everyone has an even chance. And I'm going to make sure you get that. You haven't been getting it the last 4 years.
All right. I want to thank you both for a very robust hour and a half, a fantastic debate. Really appreciate it.
was
President Trump,
extremely long.
former Vice President Joe Biden, thank you to Belmont University for hosting us tonight. And most importantly, thank you to those watching tonight. Election Day is November 3rd. Don't forget to vote. Thank you, everyone, and have a great night.
Thank you.
Great response. Let's see. Let's see. Does he get a hug? Does he get a kiss?
No. No.
Not even a shoulder tap. I like how her mask is matching.
I was gonna say she coordinated.
Hey.
My favorite part of the debate right there. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Hey.
See, Trump and his wife have a business arrangement. They hold hands. She's probably a killer, bro.
Assassin.
I heard she was talking on the video.